What is up, everybody? Tuberverse here today. We're going to talk about the kind of funny interview with Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer made a quote that they have a different vision, that they want out console, sell more consoles than Sony and Nintendo. And when he made that statement, Sony fanboys and Xbox haters went wild with that statement and now have completely twisted its meaning. They are saying that Phil Spencer sounds defeated. He says that he's waving the white flag, he's given up. It's like, why do you even have faith in Phil Spencer at this point, since he knows his console can't compete with Sony and Nintendo? Well, that is not what he meant. He meant at this state in the console life cycle with all three consoles out right now, Nintendo has an extremely high number, Sony has an extremely high number of console users. Why would they try to compete with that? Like, if you know that you can still make money without making direct console sales, if you can make a bulk of your money off subscription sales and cloud gaming and these different services, then why would you try to do the whole console race with these guys? That makes a lot of sense. And then these other companies like Sony and Nintendo both did the same strategy at one point, where they said, "Hey, we can't compete, we can't beat this competitor in one point, so we did something else." For example, Sony with the handhelds. People like to forget that Sony made handheld consoles at one point to compete with Nintendo. They made the PSP and the PSP Vita. Both those consoles got slaughtered by the Nintendo handhelds. So they said, hey, we're going to stop doing handhelds and just focus on our main console, the PS4 and PS5. So Sony followed that same strategy. And same with Nintendo. Nintendo realized they can't beat Sony in the main console, in the home console market, so they shifted to doing handhelds with the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is a console and a handheld hybrid. So they said we're gonna buy out, try to compete power-wise with Sony and Microsoft. Just make first-party IPs, and it's easy and accessible for mostly younger audiences to gravitate to. So it's like all three of these companies, Sony and Nintendo, have both did the same thing, where they did a different approach to kind of fighting a console to get people to buy their consoles or whatever, to buy their to get into the ecosystem. Xbox is doing another strategy. They're doing the focus on service and subscriptions. Like Xbox Game Pass is the best service in gaming. So they're trying to win off that alone. They're trying to do well off that alone. So that's what I got from this. I don't think he sounds defeated. He just knows it doesn't make any sense to try to out console sell Sony. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you see people who are like athletes, entertainers, celebrities, basketball players are bragging. Even OnlyFans models are saying, "Hey, the PS5 is the console you need to get." So ain't nobody doing that for Xbox. You don't see no OnlyFans models or no celebrities saying how much they love Xbox. So if you can't beat them in the outsell and the console market, then beat them in doing subscription services. So I don't see why that's a problem. But like I said before, people have twisted that quote into something else. But here's an actual interview where he said that. I'm just gonna play a small clip so you can get, if you haven't seen the interview, here you go. This is the clip where he said it.
We're not in the business of out consoling Sony or out consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else.
So just to stop it right there, me as an Xbox fan, I don't care if Xbox is in first or third place. Like, I really don't care. Like, what does that benefit me if Xbox is in first place? They're selling the most consoles ever. What does that benefit me as a gamer? As long as they keep making great games that I enjoy, once their Xbox ecosystem is the same, that's all I care about. Like, I don't care if they're in first place. Like, I don't gain anything from that. Besides their next console, they're going to be arrogant once again. Like, once these consoles win a generation, it becomes the next console iteration becomes extremely arrogant, and they mess up. They mess up drastically. Like, for example, with what was the whole thing about the PS2? The PS2 dominated the home console market. PS3, they got arrogant and said, "Get a second job to buy a PS3," and it was like, it flopped. With the Wii. The Wii did extremely well. The people who weren't even gamers, like people's grandmas and aunties are buying the Wii. it was so successful that the next console generation they made the Wii U, which flopped. People couldn't even tell the difference between the Wii or the Wii U. So I was like, each time one of these consoles win a generation, the next generation just doesn't do well. So I was like, so I don't really care if Xbox is the first place or not, as long as they make great quality content, which they seem to be aiming to do with the way he said in this interview. So that's all I care about at the end of the day. Just make great games, make great services. I'm gonna be there. I don't care about who gets first or third place. It doesn't affect my pockets or me at all, so I don't care.
Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like, just because they make an amazing game like Starfield, like he says, if Starfield gets 11 out of 10, Avowed does extremely well, the Fable remake does extremely well, Perfect Dark remake does extremely well. I don't see people just shifting from the huge user base that Sony has, usually the Sony has already, them just selling their PS5s off. I don't see that happening. It's how popular the PS5 is. So, once again, I agree with that statement. People are twisting it and saying, like, hey, you have no faith in your games. But it's like, that's not true. It's like, he knows the reality that these aren't going to outsell, the Xbox is never going to outsell the PS5 at this point. So if you can't outsell them, then why not try to grasp the market another way by doing a whole subscription service or get people off cloud gaming? So I don't see what the big issue is. Xbox has been kind of saying that for the longest. Like, I don't see why people are so shocked by this, but you know, there's more fake outrage, I guess. I don't know.
Where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people.
Reality.
Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there.
Facts, because if you probably would plan PS4 or Xbox One generation, so you probably got one of these consoles anyway. Except for, I guess, I don't know how rare it is to have multiple consoles at this point, because I thought that was just like an everyday thing. But apparently, a lot of people don't have multiple consoles, so I don't know. I was like, I guess you could buy multiple consoles, but at this point in time, I think one person, the people who are buying these consoles are probably like settle into one of the ecosystems, and they don't want to switch like that. So I kind of understand what he's saying at this point. Like, it's not too far-fetched to me about his statements in his interview. He doesn't sound defeated. He doesn't sound like he's giving up on Xbox. As long as he makes great games, and what they seem like trying to do is make 4 great games each year, one each quarter. It's like, I am fine with Xbox at that point. I have not lost faith in Xbox. I am still okay with Xbox. As long as they make a great game, at least once a quarter like they plan on doing, I am happy at this point. Like, but let's continue.
This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. I don't think how great Starfield is. Starfield could be the most amazing game ever. I don't think people are going to sell their PS5s and just join the Xbox ecosystem. They might buy an Xbox additionally, or buy a PC additionally, but I don't think they're going to sell their PS5s. That doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, there was also somebody else who made a topic about this too, which I agree with. I don't get why everyone's surprised Phil Spencer said Xbox can out-console Sony and Nintendo. That's just a fact. Why do you think Xbox shifted its focus from selling consoles to selling subscription services? It had to choose a different path. This is confusing. So, once again, I don't agree with this statement right here. It's not really confusing, but people are trying to twist this into something else. It's like, and this person says, yep, heck, that's why the Nintendo switched to the Wii strategy after 15 years. Yeah, because at first they was focused on power. Like Nintendo 64, Nintendo GameCube was like pretty much trying to compete with PlayStation in the home market. And I'm pretty sure the GameCube was even stronger than the PS2 at the time, but They kept losing, so they just said, "Hey, screw it. Why are we going to spend all this money to make sure our graphics are trying to we trying to beat them in graphics when we can just compete on making first party games that gravitates more towards our audience." So, I mean, it makes sense to me. It really does. I think it's just so obsolete just to go like console sales now. Like that's such an obsolete model to determine success of these companies now. Just to go by who's selling the most consoles. Like really? That's how you're gonna determine success now in 2023. Who's selling the most consoles? That's just old. That's just an obsolete business model to go by. Like who's winning the console race. And even if they like, and once again, like if they do win or lose, why does that affect me? As long as they bring in great games out, Xbox is still going to be around for the coming years and generations. Then why do I care if they win or lose? Like it doesn't faze me. So once again, I think it's just people just overreacting to this tweet, overreact to his interview, and just trying to twist it to their own narratives at this point. So this person says he's right in that losing last gen was a very tough pill to swallow. Isn't it impossible to shift the ground PlayStation made up with PS4 and into PS5? But great games do the talking, and consumers will come to your platform when they are delivered. Okay. I didn't like this segment. If you build great games, everything would just turn around. This is just not true. Great games will bring gamers to your platform or console, so you're not sure what this gobbledygook is about. So you got a lot of response to this one. I'm curious what people said to this. That wasn't his point. He's not saying their aim isn't to bring great games. Yeah, he made it pretty clear they weren't happy with how the scores Redfall was getting. He thought it was going to achieve higher scores, which once again, like I said, I gave my new opinion on this a little bit earlier, and I actually really love the game now. So I do really like Redfall, but I can see why people didn't like it because it's not running at full 60. The textures are very wonky. The cutscenes, it definitely has some flaws, but underneath all of that, I think it's a great game. So. I am waiting for big exclusives to come out on Xbox so I can buy a Series X. We haven't seen Fable about so many other games in almost 3 years. Yeah, they have so many games coming out. Like, if you don't want an Xbox by now, then it's like you just don't want it at that point. Like, what else can they do at that point? Like, just Fable, Valve, those like pretty much like the equivalent of Skyrim, the new next gen Skyrim. All these games, amazing games coming out for Xbox. If you still don't want an Xbox at that point, then you just don't want it. Like it's okay not to like Xbox. It's fine. Just play on PlayStation then. Like I don't see that big deal, but it's just the overwhelming negativity about Xbox. It's like if you don't like Xbox, then don't play on Xbox. But what he did mention, I think he did mention that like he doesn't want to copy. He doesn't want to make a green version of what Sony is doing. I agree. Like I don't want them to just copy what Sony is doing. I want them to be different. Like all of the consoles do something different at this point. Like Nintendo focuses more towards children. Sony focuses on making like big cinematic experiences. They want their games to be like movies, pretty much. Let them focus on that. I want Xbox to do their own thing. Make great games that I can get in a great service like Game Pass. Like honestly, all three can do their own thing. It's like I don't need Xbox just to copy PlayStation. If I want to play PlayStation games, I can buy a PlayStation. Like. Phil in a few years, the Chili's manager. It's kind of funny, but this is just stupid. He misses the point. Starfield being 11 out of 10 sells more Xboxes and provides consumers with confidence that they can make great games. I mean, they had a pretty good track record so far. It's like they had the one misstep with Redfall, which a lot of people don't like that game. Like I said before, I like the game, but a lot of people don't like it. But that's one misstep. The rest of the games they had really... Sony hasn't even released any games this year. I think they released... I'm going to take that back. I think they did release Chia, which was the indie game. They released that game. Then you got Spider-Man coming in September. But first party wise, Sony hasn't really released that many games this year. Besides the VR, they haven't really released anything. So it's just fascinating that Xbox gets this much scrutiny when Sony is pretty much having a super dry year of first party content. So much so that they had to pay Square Enix to make their games exclusive because this year is so dry for first party content. So this person says, Phil, my Xbox has been gathering dust for nearly 2 years. Make some great games that we all want. I mean, 2 years you haven't played your Xbox. I was like, I think that's just a you problem at that point. Like all the amazing games that's been coming to Game Pass recently, you haven't turned your Xbox on for 2 years. That's a you problem at that point. Or if you really think that, then just sell your Xbox. Like I don't understand these people who complain so much about Xbox, but they just don't sell it. Like they end up having Xbox, but don't sell it, but they haven't used it for that long. Like why not just sell it at that point? This is concerning if you consider his goals. If he doesn't see his own games as the most important aspect of success, when did he say that? Like when did he say that the games aren't the most important aspect of his success? He just says they can't sell more consoles than Sony and Nintendo, which I believe that would never happen. Even if all their games released so far is 10 out of 10, I don't think they're going to outsell Sony or Nintendo at this point. Like let's be honest here, they're not going to outsell them. So why play that game if you can't outsell them? I was like, makes sense to me, but apparently it doesn't make sense to a lot of other people. Xbox fans, after hearing this, I don't feel that way. Yeah, there's people just saying he sounds defeated, but once again, I don't get that from this. So once again, that is the part of the interview that people were super outraged about. So those are my thoughts about this. Once again, I think people are just twisting it. I think he still has faith in Xbox brand, and they have so many great games coming out in the future. Like I said before, they have so many great exclusives coming out. So if you don't care about the exclusives they have coming out, then maybe it's okay not to like Xbox. Like you don't have to like Xbox at that point. But a lot of the exclusives they got coming out is games I'm looking forward to, like Avowed, Fable, Perfect Dark, Hellblade 2, all these, Starfield, the biggest one coming out this year. It's a lot of games I'm looking forward to. So my faith in the brand is still there. Like I don't see this doom and gloom, especially over this one game, which I still think the game is still as great so far. It has a few blemishes, but the game is still great to me so far. But I'm gonna conclude it right here. Definitely want to see your thoughts down below about this. Leave a like for this video, and as always, thanks for watching, and peace.